here from Royal Malaysian Customs Department headquarters. Okay, as you can see on the screen, this is my topic. Okay, the title of my topic is Quality Declaration. Okay, I hope that you can still I hope that we are good to go, okay, for the next session, okay. Just now from since this morning, okay, the topic is on the service tax new scope, okay, expansion of a new scope of the service tax, okay. But my topic is on the declaration, how you declare the service tax to RMCD. Okay, you already understand that whether your service is taxable or not. Okay, and if your service is taxable and your sales exceed the threshold, prescribed threshold. Okay, some of the taxable service we have different threshold. Okay, 500,000, 1.5. Okay, and there's also a taxable service without any threshold. Once you are in that business, you need to be registered. Okay, so once you registered, you need to start charging your client. Okay, and then after that, that's your liability or responsibility to account whatever tax you charge from the client, okay, and remit that service tax to RMCD. So that's basically what I will cover during my session. Okay, all right. So okay. So I've divided my session into these three sub-agenda, three agenda. Okay. The first one will be introduction. Okay. I'll explain a little bit on the preparation for written declaration. And then we go to the next agenda, which is on the submission and payment of service tax by a registered person. On that, during that session, I will also cover on the not only on the I mean that yes, some of the participant today, you maybe already a registered person, and I was told also that some of the participant also newly registered with service tax and also sales tax, okay, due to the expansion of this uh, taxable service under service tax regime and also sales tax, okay, because we have this some of the goods being manufactured previously not a taxable goods, and now that goods being prescribed as a taxable. Okay, and but in my session I will also cover on the declaration for other transaction, adjustment to your tax return. Okay, and also the return amendment. Okay, then finish with that second agenda. I'll proceed with the submission and payment of service tax related to imported taxable service. Okay, if you have the itinerary for these 2 days webinar, I believe that my colleague Puan for tomorrow, Puan Salasia, she will cover on the imported taxable service as well. Okay, but in my session, I will also touch a little bit on the imported taxable service, but more on the how to what do you call, how to declare that IMTS in your return. Okay, but yeah, because this IMTS, even though okay, just for your information that this IMTS, imported taxable service scope, we already implement this IMTS since 2019, but until now there's still a company or person who did not aware of this IMTS implementation. So that's why usually in most of our webinar or seminar, we will have this IMTS topic, you know. Okay, so but anyway, I'll explain that when it comes to that slide. Okay. All right, so let's proceed with the first agenda, which is introduction. Okay, as you can see on the screen, Section 36 of Service Tax Act 2018. Basically, my topic, my session today, this afternoon session, is basically because of this Section 26 of Service Tax Act 2018. Okay, because this is in the act. Okay, this is really the section enable provision that enable us to request or to put the liability to the registered person to account the service tax to RMCT. Okay, and Section 26 also explain on the when to how to charge and how to remit that service tax to RMCT. Okay, so yeah, I just in my slide I just copy the section 26. There are few sections under section 26, but I just copied for you the subsection 1 of this section 26, but the remaining section I believe that I have in my latest slide, and also the rest of the provision you can check through this Service Tax Act. Okay, whatever related to my session I will provide it in my slide, but those not really related to my slide, you can also double check with this Service Tax Act. You can have a copy of that Service Tax Act, and you should have that Service Tax Act 2018 with the new amendment. Okay, all right. Let's look at Section 26 of Service Tax Act 2018. It's about furnishing of returns and payment of service tax due and payable. Okay, for those who are already a registered person, just take this session as a refresher course. Okay, but for the new registered person, please focus or concentrate on my session, because it's really important for you, because this is a session where you need to make sure that whether you because you already charge your client, okay, whether you report the right amount of service tax or not to RMCD. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, um, as I mentioned earlier on that as you can see on the screen now, that's the subsection 26 of Service Tax Act 2018. Okay, every taxable person shall, in respect of his taxable period, account for the service tax due, and you can read the rest of that provision. Okay, but basically as I mentioned just now, that's the important point under section 26 on your responsibility as a registered person to account whatever service tax due, okay, um, to RMCD, okay, and there's a provision of in which return and how to furnish that. I'll touch that in my later slide, okay. All right. So before I proceed further, this is on the I just would like to share with you on the common mistake by the registered person, and hopefully that for newly registered you won't repeat the same mistake. Okay. From the usually we found this during our audit session. Okay. Some of the registered person, they not to say all of most of the registered person may go under this common mistake, but some of the registered person, when we audit, we found this kind of mistake being done by the registered person. Okay, so just to share with you on these common mistakes. Okay, the first one is on the incorrect tax treatment. Okay, incorrect tax treatment can be, I hope that by now you should be clear on the taxable service. Okay, what is the service prescribed as a taxable service and which is not. Okay, because if your service is a taxable service and exceed threshold, okay, and you need to be registered and charge the service tax to the client. Okay, but if your service is not a taxable service, not in the list of the prescribed taxable service as per in the regulation, service tax regulation 2018. So shouldn't be any service tax on that. Okay, and if you're not so sure on, I can understand that some of the businesses, uh, there are still, I mean that you're still confused, in terms of whether your service is categorized as a taxable or not taxable, right? There's a situation on that. So if you're not sure of your services, whether your service falls as a taxable service or not a taxable service, my advice is that you please write into RMCD headquarters to get black and white. Okay, explain in your request, in your letter to RMCD. Mention your current situation. What is actually the services provided to the client? How you provide that services to the client, to make sure that we can also understand your situation, your scenario, and we will give you a proper service tax treatment. So once you have that I mean that the black and white from the RMCD, you can comfortably charge your client because your service is taxable, or you did not charge the client because your service is not categorized as a taxable service. Okay, please do that, because some of the businesses they just take a stand that um, I don't think that my service is a taxable service, and I will not charge the client with any service tax. Okay, but when we audit you, we found that your service is actually a taxable service, and um, you should be registered since 2020, says, for example. So it's already 5 years service tax you need to pay out of your pocket. Okay, so we don't want that. Okay, so please make sure that if you're not so sure on your service, whether your service is taxable or not, please write into RMCD. Okay, incorrect value. Okay, yes, I do understand that the value of your services, you are the one who I mean that you should know what is the value of your taxable service. Okay, but there's also some rules in the Service Tax Act that you need to consider before you report to RMCD on your value of your taxable service. Why? Because if your value of your taxable service is wrong, okay, potentially or obviously your service tax that you report to us is also wrong. Okay, wrong amount of service tax being remitted or being declared to RMCD. So please make sure that the value of your taxable service is right. Okay, and anyway, I will also share with you on I have a details on this value of your taxable service in the next slide. Okay, so we'll come to that. Okay, incomplete declaration. This is where I can say many of registered person miss out to fill in some of the fill in the tax declaration form, because not some of the okay in the tax declaration form, some of the boxes may not be marked as a mandatory field, but if you have that transaction, it becomes mandatory for your company. Okay, so make sure that if you have that transaction, whatever information that you need to declare, please make sure that you declare all of the information that need to be declared to RMCD. Okay, incorrect taxable period. This is usually happen to the new registered person because they are still familiarized in a state of familiarizing the system being used for the tax reporting. Okay, and or sometimes due to sometime tax agent, you have tax agent, and this tax agent they helps many registered person to report the tax to RMCD, and sometimes they confuse. They want to declare for company A but mistakenly choose for company B, something like that. Okay, and can also be a registered person. You wanted to report for a different taxable period, but end up with you select for different taxable period. So make sure that before you submit to RMCD, just check before you click the submit button to make sure that you actually filing for the right taxable period. Okay, and for the late submission, this is quite normal. Some of the registered person they for some reason they file their tax return late to RMCD. Just to make sure that please make sure that you report this service tax according to the due date. Okay, all right. This is on the incorrect value. I think that Yeah, so under incorrect value, okay, usually when we audit your company, okay, when we look into your tax filing, okay, usually we will concentrate on the whether you have reported all of the service tax that already due, okay, and also if you have this taxable services provided for free, okay, these are some of the element that you need to consider um, to make sure that the value of your taxable service reported to us is the correct amount, okay. But don't worry, I'll cover on the value of taxable service in a short while, okay, because I have that slide, okay. Incomplete declaration, as I mentioned on just now, that please make sure that whatever transaction or whatever information that you need to declare, please declare in the tax return, okay. All right. This is just to share with you on the before you do your filing, what you need to consider, okay. um, because uh, if you're already a registered person, if you look at the tax return, quite straightforward. Not many information need to be furnished to RMCD, but not about the boxes, but what important is that the value that you report to us, okay. So things that you need to consider before you do your filing, okay. First is the value of your taxable service, okay. As I mentioned earlier on, that this is really important because if the value of your taxable service report to us is wrong, so obviously the service tax amount also will be wrong, because service tax will be calculated based on the taxable service, okay. And when is service tax due, okay. Some of the registered person, they have different tax due, okay, as compared to another registered person, okay. And what is your taxable period? This is quite straightforward. Every registered person, you'll be assigned with the taxable period, okay, by for participant who already a registered person, I think by now you should already aware of your taxable period, okay. So let's proceed with this value of taxable service, okay. So in the Service Tax Act, we have these special rules under Service Tax Act to regulate on the value of taxable service, okay. um okay Under subsection 9 1B, okay, I'll cover on the provision of service first, okay. Determination of value of taxable service. So we have three boxes here, and the boxes represent three situations for a registered person, okay. If you as a registered person, when you provide your taxable service, okay, and that taxable service, okay, if you provide your taxable service to a person not connected with your company, okay, um, what would be the value of your taxable service? That is actually what is explained under section 9, okay, on the value of taxable service. It's not to regulate that what is the value that you should charge to the client, okay. That is your business decision, okay. Say for example, you provide IT services. So for your IT services, you decided to charge with 10,000. So that is fine. So we will not interfere with the value, the value of your services to the client, okay. But what we regulate is that if that services provided to a person not connected, okay, there's some rules to that, okay. And what happen if you provide to a person not connected or person connected, or your services provided for free, okay. There's a rules for that, okay, in terms of the value of your taxable service, okay. Let's look at the first box first, okay. If you have this situation, you usually this is the common cases, okay. You provide your taxable service to a person not connected with your company. So in the case of tax whatever taxable service, okay, the value of taxable service is the actual value of the taxable service provided to the client, okay. What means that whatever value that you charge to the client, that will be the value of your taxable service, okay, for the purpose of reporting to RMCD, okay, because there's a one box in your tax return, request on the value of taxable service, okay. And then if that taxable service, in the case of premium for insurance policy or takaful contribution for takaful certificate, it's the actual premium or contribution paid. That will be the value of the taxable service, okay. For other services than this premium for insurance policy or takaful contribution, the actual value of your taxable service. In the case of premium for insurance policy, the actual premium or contribution paid, that is the value of your taxable service. But what happens if you provide that services to a person connected with your company? So the rules is that the value of the value of taxable service shall be the value of taxable service which would have been provided in the ordinary course of business to a person not connected with the taxable person. Okay, so that's why I'm saying we will not interfere with the value that you need to charge to the client. But when you have this situation where you provide the taxable service to a person connected, okay, just make sure that for the purpose of reporting, for the purpose of service tax, okay, the value of your taxable service shall be the value of taxable service which would have been provided in the ordinary course of business. Okay, it's okay. I think that I have the example in the next slide. I think that maybe you will have a clear or better understanding when we proceed to the next slide. Okay, this is I just read for you the provision under section 9. Okay, and we also have rules if you provide that taxable service for free, okay, um, okay, for free. So in this case, the value of that taxable service, okay, shall be the value of taxable service which will have been provided in the ordinary course of business to a person not connected with the taxable person or with your company. So by the way, before that, in the service tax regulation, okay, we have this under regulation 6, if I'm not mistaken, you can refer to that service tax regulation 2018. Okay, we have this situation or condition to be considered as connected or not connected person. Okay, like uh, director, same director for different companies also can be considered as a connected person. Okay, so there are lists in that service tax regulation under regulation 6 mentioned on the situation that can be considered as a connected under service tax regulation for the purpose of this section 9. Okay, all right, so let's look at the example here. All right, um Sizu Sdn is a registered person. Okay, he provides services to M2M Sdn and also CD Sdn. Okay, so these two companies, this Sizu Sdn client. Okay, but one of the client, look at the note down there. Sizu Sdn and Sini Sdn is a connected person. Okay, so under this situation, for this example, Sizu and Sini is a connected person. Okay, but Sizu and M2M is not a connected person. Okay, so what will happen is that Sizu Berhad, okay, when he provides services to M2M Sdn Berhad, okay, for the IT services, right? He charged for his IT services to M2M with 5,000 ringgit. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier on that we are okay with that. We will not interfere in terms of the value that you wanted to charge to your client. Okay, so in this case, Sizus Namhat charged his client, this M2M, with 5,000 ringgit. Okay, so because of Sizus Namhat is a registered person, so he need to charge together with service tax. So service tax will be calculated based on the value of taxable service. The value of taxable service for Sizus neighborhood to M2M neighborhood is 5,000 ringgit. So that is the value of taxable service for the purpose of this transaction. Okay, so Sizus neighborhood, when he calculate the service tax 8% will be based on this 5,000 ringgit, which is 400 ringgit. Okay, so service tax to be accounted by Sizu when he provides IT services to M2M is 400 ringgit. At the same time, Sizu also provides IT services, okay, the same IT services to Sini's neighborhood, who is connected person. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, based on this example, Sizu charged with lower price. Okay, same IT services, but this time because they are connected person, he just charged Sydney with 3,000 ringgit. Okay, usually the ordinary cost of business, okay, and the ordinary cost of business, he usually will charge with 5,000 ringgit, but for Sydney, he just charged with 3,000 ringgit. And again, I would like to stress on, we will not interfere with that value. It doesn't matter, Sizu can just charge Sydney with 3,000 ringgit. Okay, but for the purpose of service tax to be accounted to RMCD, okay, in this example, for this example, service tax to be accounted by Sizu Berhad, okay, is still 400 ringgit, not the 240 ringgit if we calculate the 8% based on this RM 3000. Okay, because why? Because Section 9 already mentioned that if you provide your taxable service to a person connected with your company, okay, let's look at this is the slide. When you provide your taxable service to a person who is connected, okay, the service tax is payable shall be the value, okay, means that how you come with the service tax amount must be based on your value of taxable service, and in this case the value of taxable service when you provide services to a person connected, the value of taxable service which would have been provided in the ordinary course of business to a person not connected with the taxable person. So, ordinary course of business to a person not connected with Sizu, usually he will charge with 5,000. Okay, so service tax will be calculated based on that 5,000, so 400 ringgit. So in the case of Sizu, when he provides services to Sini, even though he charged with 3,000 ringgit, but service tax, okay, payable in this example shall be based on the 5,000 ringgit because that is the ordinary cost of business. That's the value when he charged to a person not connected with the Sizu's neighborhood. Okay, so that's what Section 9 mentioned on. All right. So other than provision of service, Section 9 also mentioned on provision of goods, how to derive the value of taxable service for the purpose of goods. Okay, why we have goods in the Service Tax Act? Because remember that in the service tax regulation, we prescribe a taxable service under a few groups. Group A until now we have group GKLMN, right? Um, in group A until group E, we have this group A is accommodation, group B is F&B, group C is the club, okay, group D is club. Okay, so in that group, one of the taxable service is provision of goods, okay, provision of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, provision of this tobacco product, right? So this goods, okay, because this goods also prescribed as one of the taxable service for that group, so that good is subject to service tax, okay, not subject to sales tax, okay. So that's why for the purpose of service tax calculation for that goods, okay, so we have the same rules here. If that goods sold to a person not connected, okay, the actual price for good, the actual price for which the goods are sold. Okay, say for example, Hotel A. Okay, so he provide accommodation, of course, and at the same time he also provide these beverages. So when he sell that drinks to a person not connected, say for example this Coca-Cola can or FNN, okay, he will charge the client with 2 ringgit, for example. Okay, so that 2 ringgit is the value of that goods, and service tax will be calculated based on that 2 ringgit. Okay, but if that hotel also sell the goods to a person connected, okay, the same rules applies here. Okay, so the price, I mean that the value of taxable service for the purpose of service tax calculation shall be the price at which the goods would have been sold in the ordinary course of business to a person not connected with the taxable person. Okay, so same rules apply here. So meaning that for the purpose of service tax, it will be calculated based on the value that he charged to a person not connected. Okay, maybe to a person connected, he just charged that drinks for 1 ringgit, but in the ordinary course of business, he will charge at 2 ringgit. So service tax will be calculated based on the 2 ringgit instead of 1 ringgit. Okay, same for if that goods being provided for free. Okay, so service tax shall be calculated based on the price of goods sold in the ordinary course of business to a person not connected with the taxable person. Okay, but in the event of you provide your services for free, for example, under promotion package. Okay, you have this promotion period. um, um, if your client engage you for a few services, you will provide consultation services for free, for example, to all of your client. Okay, of course there's a criteria for your before you can offer that services to the client. Okay, so under that circumstances, that can be considered as the free services as the ordinary course of business. Okay, because it applies to all of your client. Okay, but if that free service only applies to a special client, for a certain client, because you have a special relationship with that client. So in the ordinary course of business, that is, you not provide your services for free, right? But because of that client is very special client, you just provide that services for free. So under that circumstances, there's service tax on that provision, on that transaction. Okay. All right. So finish with that service tax value of this service tax. Okay. Value of taxable service. Now this is on the tax due. Okay. Under section 11. Okay. We have this the provision under section 11 is about the service tax due. Okay. When we introduce this service tax regime, we only have one tax due. Okay, so every registered person during that time, okay, will be put under normal tax due. Okay, by default of all the registered person, they will be put under normal tax due. Okay, look at the timeline marked as number one. Okay, number one is normal tax due. Normal tax due. Okay, under section subsection 11(1)(a). Tax due is about when you should report the tax that being collected from the client to RMCD. Okay, all right. So under normal tax due, you will report to us, or you will pay the tax to RMCD when you receive the payment from the client. Okay. So for every registered person, okay, by default you will be put under normal tax due. Okay, so you will report the service tax. I repeat, okay, you will report your service tax when you receive the payment from the client. Okay, but since 2019, okay, we amend the law to also provide an option to for a registered person to opt for different tax due. Okay, um, because we receive quite a lot of requests from the registered person. They don't want to monitor the payment from the client. Okay, so they would rather once they issue the invoice to the client, they will just charge the service tax. I mean that. Not charge the service tax. They will just report the service tax to RMCD. Okay, so that's why instead of payment received, they will account and pay the service tax to RMCD when they issue the invoice or under accounting basis. Okay, so registered person, they can opt, if they don't want to monitor the payment, they can opt to accounting basis, where they will account and pay the service tax to RMCD when they issue the invoice to the client. If not, every registered person will be under this normal tax due, which is under payment basis. You will report this service tax to RMCD when you receive the payment from the client. Okay, all right. Other than normal tax due and special tax due for invoice basis, we also have another tax due where look at the timeline, the number that I marked as number 3. Okay, um, that is the another tax due. If you did not, for those who are under payment basis, if you did not receive any payment from the client, okay, yes, you under payment basis, you only report the service tax to RMCD when you receive the payment from the client, right? But uh, uh, but we can only I mean that only up to certain time, okay. Um, if you did not receive that service tax or the customer still did not pay you, okay, after 12 months period, immediately after 12 months period, okay, tax become due already. Okay, after the 12 months period, you provide the taxable service to the client. Okay, look at the timeline. 19 May 2023 is where you provide the taxable service to the client. Okay, if you receive the payment, okay, if you're under normal basis, okay, under payment basis, you receive the payment in somewhere in September. Okay. In the taxable period that cover month of September is where you report the service tax to RMCD. If you're under invoice basis, okay, even though you provide taxable service somewhere in on 19 May, but you already issue that invoice on 17 May, um, you because this one is in the same month, right? Say for example, you issue invoice in April, somewhere in April. So you need to report the service tax in the taxable period that cover months of April. Can be tax March April taxable period or April May taxable period. It depends. Okay. But for those who are under payment basis, if you still did not receive any payment from the client, okay, 12 months, okay, from the date you provide the taxable service to the client, okay, immediately after that 12 months, tax become due. Means that whatever is, you need to account that service tax to RMCD. Okay, so in the taxable period for this example, okay, 19 May 2024, already 12 months period, okay, immediately 12 months period already. So 19 May 2024, the tax service tax become due already for the taxable service provided in 19 May 2023. Okay, so under these circumstances, okay, even though you did not receive any payment from the client, because in the act mentioned that tax already due, so you need to account that service tax in the taxable period based on this example in the taxable period that covers months of May 2024. Okay, so that is the provision under section 11. So that's why I'm saying that these two I mean that these two facts about your value of taxable service and also tax due date is really an important information for every registered person to be considered before you do your filing. Okay, these are the two things that you need to always in your mind, that before you do your filing, you need to consider whether your value of the taxable service is correct or not. Okay, and whether you already report whatever tax that become due or not. Okay, because sometimes when we do audit, okay, we found that um there's a lot of invoice, okay, and it's already 1 year period or 2 years period, but there's still no service tax being reported to RMCD because they still I mean that they did not aware of this provision and they just wait payment from the client. Okay, so please make sure that because we have this provision in the act, okay, just to make sure that you're aware of this provision. Okay, after 12 months period, even though you did not receive any payment from the client, tax become due already, and whatever is you need to account that service tax to RMCD. Yeah, okay, that is on the tax due date. Okay, this is on the taxable period. Taxable period is quite straightforward. Every registered person will be assigned with the taxable period. Taxable period under service tax regime will be a period of 2 months by monthly taxable period. Okay, So every 2 months you need to report the service tax to RMCD. Okay. So some of the registered person, they may have this uh, uh, according to your, I mean, depending on your financial year end. Okay. Usually your taxable period will match your FYE. Okay. So if your FYE falls under even month, so your taxable period also will fall the same as your FYE. Okay. Say for example, you have your FYE falls on the February, so you will have your taxable period January, February, March, April, May, June, and something like that. Okay. If your FYE is odd month, so you also have this odd month taxable period. So you may have December, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, the 2 months taxable period will be uh, similar to your FYE. Okay, falls on your FYE. And if you're not happy with that taxable period, you can always write into RMCD, mention your reason, your justification why you want to have different taxable period. And if we approve that your request, so DG will reassign the new taxable period for your company. Okay, so that is on the taxable period. So um, make sure that when you do your filing, make sure that you select for the right or correct taxable period. Okay. Alright. Okay. So finish with that introduction. I'll proceed with the second agenda, which is submission and payment of service tax by registered person. Okay. All right. I believe that this morning my colleague also cover a little bit on the credit note and debit note. Okay. So in my slide, I will also cover on that, but focus on the how to put that value in your service tax filing. Okay. All right. So yeah. If you still remember that under section 26 sub 1 just now, that's the provision, that is the provision on the um, uh, furnishing of return and submission of payment. Okay. But in the act, usually it does not explain in detail on yes, you are required to furnish your return, but it does not mention in the act that in which form to be used, in which document, and how you can submit your return and how to make a payment to RMCD. Okay, it does not explain in the act. Okay, so but it will be explained in the um subsidiary document, which is service tax regulation. Okay, so we have this service tax regulation 2018 under regulation 12 of that document. um it defines or it mentioned on the which form to be used. Okay, so under regulation 12 it mentioned that you should furnish the return, okay, in the form and manner as determined by DG, and DG already determined the form that you should use is SST02 form. Okay, and this SST02 form can be downloaded from the My SST portal. Okay, and also for the purpose of how you submit your SST02 return. Okay, under regulation 14 of service tax regulation 2018, it mentioned that as many as DG may determine, and DG already determined that you can submit your SST02 returns either by online, okay, through My SST portal. I provided to you the link to that My SST portal for newly registered person. For those already a registered person, you know where to access this My SST portal. Okay, or you can also submit your SST02 return manually to Customs Processing Center. Okay, you can check through our Customs portal or My SST portal. Also, we have this address to this Custom Processing Center is reside in Kelana Jaya. Okay. All right. And then the return under this section 26, look at section 26 sub 5. A return should be furnished whether or not there is tax to be paid. Okay. Even though for that taxable period during that month, okay, say for example you have this January, February taxable period. During that 2 months, you did not receive any payment from the client. Therefore, you don't have any tax to be paid to RMCD. But you still need to furnish your SST02 return to RMCD and just fill that fill as a zero. Under that circumstances, your return will be categorized as a nil return. Okay, you do not have any tax to be paid, but still need to furnish that SST02 return to RMCD. So just put that field as the for the tax. Okay, just put zero in that field. Okay, all right. So but whatever is, you still need to furnish your SST02 return, even though there is no tax to be paid to RMCD. Okay, this is your SST02 return. Okay, manual return. Okay, you can download this form through the My SST portal, as I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so in this SST0 to return, there are few parts, part A until part F. Okay, part A is on your particulars, part B1 is on your service detail, part B2 is on the value of tax payable for the purpose of this service tax declaration. Part C, this is only for sales tax. Okay, tomorrow my colleague will explain in details on fields to be filled in the SSA02 for the purpose of sales tax filing. Okay, for today, for my session, I will concentrate on the service tax filing. Okay, and the rest of the parts. Okay. All right. So for those who already have an access to this system, My SST system, okay, this is the My SST system looks like. Okay, you need to have a login credential before you can before you can declare or account your service tax through this system. Okay, all right. When you log in and you choose for the which taxable period you want to account for, okay, this is the main screen for the SST02 online. Okay, so on the main screen, okay, you can see few okay there are few information to be filled in the SSC02 form. Okay, but through the system, okay, as you can see on the screen, some of the boxes, most of the boxes will be auto populated. For example, box number one in your SST02 is the service SST registration number. Okay, so SST registration number will be auto populated if you file your SST02 through online system, through this My SST system. Okay, because based on the login credentials, system can detect that who log into the system and you are logged in for which company. So that company, their SST registration number will be auto populated on the main screen of this SST02 online. Okay, box number two in your SST02 is the name of registered person, which is your company name, so also will be auto populated. Box number three, that is on the taxable period and also will be auto populated based on your selection before you come to this screen. Okay, when you log in, you need to choose for service tax filing and you need to choose for which taxable period you want to file for. Okay, once you select for that taxable period, system will capture that information and will display or auto populated that information on this screen. And then field number 4 is on the return and payment due date. Okay, so basically that will be the um, due date for which taxable period that you select just now. Okay, so usually for due date we have for each taxable period you will have 1 month for you to submit your SST02 filing. So that will be the due date. Okay, duration for you to prepare and submit to RMCD. After due date, of course, there will be a penalty for that taxable period. Okay, so that is box number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, still on the main screen. Now box number 22, 23, and 24. Okay, box number 22. I'm sorry that I'm jumping here and there about this number of boxes in your SST02 form. It's just that I don't want to jump into different screen. I would like to maintain on the still on the main screen, but what are the information that you need to finish on the main screen before you proceed to the next screen? Okay, so box number 22 is on the authorized officer who declare for this SST02 return. Okay, but this one will be auto populated. System will auto populated the date when you access the system. So that date will be considered as date you submit the return to RMCD. Okay, if you submit your SST02 return today, so today's date will be displayed on the information number 22. Okay. Okay, 23 and 24, this is the information on the declarant. Okay, whoever declare for this taxable period or for this SST02 return, your name should be in 23 and 24. Okay, yes, when you log in, it's based on your login credential, but most of the company, they just maintain one login credential but can be used by many staff in the company. So that's why that's a general login credential. Okay, so say for example, for a company where they assign a few staff for the purpose of this service tax filing. Say for example, for this taxable period, staff A will do. Okay, so next taxable period, staff B will declare. Okay, so whoever declare, your name should be in this 23 and 24. Okay, so say for example, for this taxable period, staff A declare. Okay, she's the one who prepare for this service tax filing for this taxable period. So his name or her name should be in 23 and 24. Don't put your director's name or whoever who is not related to this transaction. Okay, so whoever log in and declare for this taxable period, your name should be in 23 and 24. Okay, once you finish with this main screen, okay, now you're ready for the declaration for taxable services. Say for example, you have more than one taxable service, so choose for which taxable service now you would like to account for. Okay, in this example, I'm using this peiklanan or advertising services. Okay, choose for the advertising services, and now you'll be system will display this screen for you. Okay, so on this screen, okay, what you need to furnish is the information or in your SST return, SST02 form, there's box number 67. Okay, that is on the description of your taxable service and also service types code. Okay, but don't worry with that. That one will be auto populated based on the taxable service that you just choose from the previous screen. Okay, box number 9, that is the those I colored as red. That's an important information that you need to focus or need to pay attention. Okay, all right, so box number 9 is on the value of free service. Okay, remember that we have this provision under section 9 just now. Okay, talks about the value of your taxable service. What if you provide your services for free? Okay, yes, we will. Okay, we, as I mentioned on, customs will not interfere with your business decision to decide on what is the value to charge the client, and even you want to provide your services for free to the client for selected client. But when it comes to service tax is not free. Okay, so service tax shall be based on the rules mentioned under section 9 just now. Okay, say for example, you provide your services for free for the special for this special client. Okay, by right you will charge your services for 2,000 ringgit, for example. But because of this person A is a special client, or for whatever reason, you just provide your services for free. But um service tax is not free, as I mentioned. There's service tax on that. So even though you provide the services for free, you need to fill in box number 9 with the value of what is actually the value of your services if you did not provide that services for free to that client. Okay, means that in the ordinary course of business, usually you will charge with what value. So that value to be put in box number 9. Okay, if you provide that services for free to a person, to whoever, but that is not your ordinary course of business. Okay. Box number 10 is the value of taxable service. Now, when you want to fill in the box number 10, it's not simply that you just take from the whatever value from the invoice that you issue to the client, okay? But need to consider also the value of taxable service as mentioned under section 9, especially if you have transaction to a person connected with your company. If your client, all of your client is not a connected person, so you don't have to worry on the value of taxable service under section 9. Okay. All right. um we also have this box number 11C. 11C is taxable service other than from group H. Okay, so mean that because group H we have this different boxes, because group H is for the now not only limited to credit card and charge card, but it's also for finance, right? So previously for charge card and credit card, okay, the calculation of service tax is different, not based on the 6%, but it's 25 ringgit, based on how many cards you issue to the client, right? So that would be different. But for taxable service other than group H, for example, for this example, it's for advertising services. So that is the value. I mean that basically that is the service tax for this um advertising services. Okay, that 11C will be auto populated. Okay, based on value you insert in box number 9 and 10. Okay, so that's why it's important that if you put wrong amount in your box number 10, amount in 11C also will be wrong. Okay, so that's why I mentioned that please make sure that what before you fill in box number 10, okay, make sure that you consider the provision under section 9 just now. Okay, the value of your taxable service. Okay, and especially I repeat again, especially if you have or if you provide your taxable service to a person connected with your company. If you don't have that transaction, so you don't have to worry on that value of taxable service under in box number 10. Okay, so service tax for box number 9 and 10 will be auto populated or calculated by the system and will be displayed in box number 11C. Okay, uh, and that field also will be editable, even though it's auto populated, but it's also editable. Why is editable? Because there are some situation where your accounting system and our system, the calculation is not really the same. Not to say not the same. Of course, you would calculate the service tax. Now it's already 8%. Some of the taxable service maintain at 6%. Okay, of course you will calculate the service tax based on the 8%. The 8% based on the whatever value of your taxable service. Okay, and you will get whatever amount. But sometimes, okay, due to decimal point, okay, and um, that's why sometimes you when you declare in box number 10 and 9, okay, system will in 11C, system will calculate and display. Say for example, you have 10,000 in box number 10. So 8% based on that 10,000 shall be 8 sorry, 10,000 800, say for example. But if you that is for the whole taxable services for that taxable period, okay. But sometimes, okay, the amount that you charge to the client, okay, maybe, okay, or maybe the calculation, okay, that been displayed in 11C, the service tax being displayed in 11C, for example, 820 cent, but the service tax that you charge to the client is 845 cent, for example. So you can edit that field. Instead of 820 cent, you can amend that field and put as 845 cent in that 11C. Okay. So whatever service tax, whatever amount that you charge to the client, that is the amount that you need to remit to RMCD. Okay, declare and remit to RMCD. Okay, so that's why 11C is auto populated but also editable. Okay, so some of the registered person, they are not aware of these features in this system. They said that oh, because the system already calculate for us, so we thought that that is the final amount for the service tax that we need to pay. So that is not really right. Okay, so you need to whatever, because when we look into their listing, okay, the sales listing, okay, and whatever they declared to us, there's a difference between their document and also in this SST02 return. So that's why we say, that's why we ask, why you have different amount in your listing and what you are reporting to RMCD. So that's why we understand that they thought that whatever tax that being calculated by the system, that is the final amount that need to be paid to RMCD. But actually, you need to make sure that whatever amount that in your listing or whatever amount that you collect from the client, that is the amount that you need to declare and pay to RMCD. Okay. Okay. Other than that, 11C, we also have 13A. 13A is for tax deduction from credit note. 13C is also another service tax deduction that we allowed through this SST02 return. Okay. But what is the value to be filled in 13A and 13C? I have that detail in my next slide. Okay. I'll come to that detail when we come to that slide. Okay. So as for now, that 13A is for tax deduction. If you have any credit note, whatever service tax in that credit note can be declared in 13A. And if you have any if you being approved for any tax deduction, you can you will need to fill in box number 13C. Okay, but anyway, what is the condition, what is the situation that be allowed to for you to fill in 13A, 13C? I'll come to that in my next slide. Okay. All right. So still on the same screen. Okay. Now is box number 14, 15, and 16. Okay. Box number 14 is about the total tax payable before penalty imposed. Okay. So 11C just now is the total of the service tax. Okay. But if you have any value in 13A and 13C, so box number 14 is the final amount of service tax, but before penalty being imposed. Okay. Say for example, you declare and pay late. Okay. So there's a penalty for that. Okay. So that's why box number 40, box number 50 will display penalty rate and penalty amount. And box number 16 is actually the really the final amount of service tax or final amount of tax to be paid to RMCD, inclusive the penalty amount if there's any penalty being imposed to your company. Okay, based on your transaction. Okay, all right. So look at this example here. Okay, 6,000 is the 11C just now. 6,000 is derived from the box number 10. Okay, this company declared 100,000. Okay, so 6% based on the 100,000 is 6,000. So that is the amount of service tax. If that is the amount of service tax that you collect from the client, so you don't have to amend that 6,000. Say for example, the amount that you collect from the client is actually 6,000 and 70 cent. So 6,070 cent you need to amend that 11C to put that 6,070 cents. Okay, and if you don't have any value in 13A and 13C, that's why you will see box number 14 and 11C is the same amount, the 6,000. Okay, and that is the amount before penalty. And this example, this company being imposed with this 40% penalty because of they file this taxable period late. Okay, so there's a penalty for that. The penalty rate is 40%. Penalty amount is 2,400 ringgit. 40% based on this 6,000. Okay, the balance, the whatever service tax that involved in this transaction. Okay, so that's how we get this 2,400. 40% based on 6,000. Okay, so that's altogether. Okay, penalty plus the service tax amount. That's where you get box number 16 with the amount of 8,400 ringgit. So that will be the final value of amount to be paid to RMCD. Tax, service tax plus the penalty amount. Okay. Alright. Other than that box, okay, there's another box which is 18C. This is on the total value of exempted taxable service. If you have any transaction where your client is entitled for any exemption, okay, you will not charge your client with service tax. Okay, you are allowed to charge your client without service tax because your client entitled for the service tax exemption. I believe that you already have this information on the exemption because I believe that Puan Eliza already covered this morning, okay, about the exemption and the service tax regime. Okay, so if your client is entitled for any tax exemption and you don't have to charge your client, but you need to report to us what is the value that being given exemption. Okay, in box number 18C. Okay, so that is the value to be put in 18C. Okay, once you finish with the declaration about advertising services, based on the example just now, advertising services, um, if you have more than one taxable services, okay, you should repeat the step. Okay, select for which taxable period, for example IT services. So select for IT services and repeat the step where you need to fill in box number 9, 10, 11C, 14, 15, 16, and so on. Okay, once you finish with that, say for example you have declared for all of your taxable service, then when you click next, system will come back to the main screen and will summarize um, the value that you fill in for all of that taxable service on the main screen. Okay, that's where you again will see box number 12, 14, 15, and 16, but this time around this box will display through my SST system. The box will display the say for example box number 12, total value of tax payable. Okay, but for all taxable service. Okay, just now on this screen, this box number 14, 15, 16 is only for that taxable service. Okay, if you have more than one taxable service, it will be summarized on the main screen, and that is the final value for all of your taxable service. Okay, so that's okay. I think that is all the boxes that you need to fill in SSC 0 to return. So come to this exercise now, just to make sure that you can understand on whatever I just explained to you on what is the value that to be inserted or to be filled in each boxes in SSC 0 to form. Okay. Let's do this exercise together. Okay, this is a really simple exercise. Okay, Sizus Nyambra is a registered person under STA 2018 and provide IT services. Okay, in months of May and June 2020, taxable period May and June, he recorded the following transaction. 17 May, issued invoice related to the provision of IT services with the amount of 1.8 million. On 19 May, part payment received for the provision of IT services amount 400,000, excluding tax amount. Yeah, this 400,000 is just a value of that IT services. 20 years may provide IT services to a special client worth 100,000 for free. Okay, so that's the keyword there. A special client and for free. 20th June, part payment, another part payment received for the provision of IT services, same amount 400,000 exclusive tax. 26th June, payment did not receive from client for IT services provided 1 year earlier. Okay, 26th June 2019. Now he filing for May and June 2020. Okay. Okay, what will be the amount in box number 10, 9, and 11? Okay, can I give you about 1 minute for you to fill in. Okay, I hope that you can get it all right. Okay, if you get 11, box number 11 right, means that all boxes are right. Okay, you can share your answer in the chat if you want to share your answer. Okay, just 1 minute for that. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Box number 6 already given is IT services. Yeah. All right. I believe that some of you struggle to fill in this box. Okay. Yeah. Before that, forget to mention that consider that this company under payment basis. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's do this together. Okay. Box number 10 should be, yeah, 400 plus 400 plus 100,000. 400 is from transaction number 2 and 4, and 100 is from transaction number 5. Okay. Number 5, because remember that we have this normal special tax due under section 11 just now. Tax become due if you still did not receive any payment from the client. Okay, so that's why we have this in box number 10. We have this 400 is based on the whatever payment he received, because this company under payment basis. Okay, if this company under invoice basis, so he will straight away report this 1.8 million. Okay, now he's under payment basis. Okay, I already provide you that information, payment basis. Okay, um so that's why value in box number 10 is 900,000. Okay, 400 plus 100 under transaction 5. So box number 9, because of transaction number 3. Okay, provide IT services to special client worth 100,000 ringgit for free. Under normal condition, he will charge the client with 100,000. But because of this special client, he just provide that services for free. But as I mentioned earlier on, that tax is not free. So you need to report to us the value of that services. Okay, the value of taxable services under section 9 just now. That's why you have this 100,000 inbox number 9. So 9 plus 10, that's why you get 6% from 9 plus 10. Okay, so still 6% because this is the old taxable period, May and June 2020. At that time, this transaction subject to 6% tax rate. Okay, so that's where you get this 60,000 based on the 1 million of taxable service value from box number 9 and 10. All right. Yeah, if you fill in the system also, you will get the same amount. Okay, so make sure that you have this value in box number 9, and also sorry, box number 10. Okay, and box number 11C, 11 will be auto populated and also editable. Okay, all right. um Section 26(4), other than just now, the provision on the account, the service tax. Okay, 26(4) is on the responsibility for you to pay the service tax to RMCD. Okay, so this is the provision under that section 26. Okay, any taxable person who is required to furnish a return under this section shall pay to the DG the amount of service tax due and payable and not later than the last day on which he is required to furnish the return. So meaning that the due date for the payment and return is the same due date, okay, which is the not later than the last day on which he is required to furnish the return, meaning that the 1 month and from the end of that taxable period, okay. And how to furnish that how to make a payment. So regulation 16 says that you can make a payment by either electronic banking or in any manner as DigiMan determine. And manner that determined by DG is you can also prepare a check, manual check and submit to Customs Processing Center and also reside at Kelana Jaya. Okay. Alright. So what happens if you pay late? Okay. So under section 26(7, it's explained the penalty structure. If you pay 30 days late, okay, the first 30 days late, you will be subject to 10% tax rate, penalty rate, okay. So another second 30 days late, you're subject to 15% penalty rate, another 15%. So first 30 days, 10%, another 30 days, another 15%, another 30 days, another 15%. So maximum is at 40%. Okay. So make sure that you pay the service tax before due date. Okay. So to avoid this penalty structure. Okay. What if you fail to furnish the return or furnish an incorrect return? Okay. So under Service Tax Act, we have this provision under Section 26(6). Okay. If you fail or furnish an incorrect return, commits an offence. So make sure that um, this is your responsibility. Okay. So make sure that you furnish that return according to your taxable period and before due date. Okay. And remember that even though if there's no tax to be paid for that taxable period, still you need to furnish that return to RMCD. Okay. But what happens if you fail to do so? Subject to a fine. Okay. If commits an offence, subject to a fine not exceeding 50,000 or to imprisonment for a term exceeding 3 years or both. Okay. Um, Imagine that this is only for one taxable period. Say for example you have multiple taxable period that you did not furnish to RMCD. So you'll be subject to 50,000 times whatever taxable period that you have. Okay. And that is on if you fail to furnish return or furnish incorrect return. Okay. So that's why I would like to stress on the information on the value just now. Okay. Because if you account, that if you have mm, wrong value or incorrect value of your taxable service, it resulted in incorrect amount of service tax accounted and remitted to RMCD, and you can be considered as filing incorrect return because the amount is incorrect. Okay. So make sure that you really understand on the value of taxable service under section 9 that I already explained to you just now. Yeah. But yeah, not to worry if you don't have any transaction to a person connected with your company, and or if your company qualify for this intra-group relief transaction. Okay. So if because some of the service you can't enjoy this intra-group relief, or so that's why you need to charge the client. So just make sure that you that you calculate the right amount of your value of your taxable service. Okay. What happens if you fails to pay? Okay, if you pay late, you subject to the penalty structure just now. But if you did not pay at all, pay the service tax to RMCD. Also another offence which is subject to a fine not exceeding 50,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or both. Okay. Alright. So what else to declare? Okay, so I think that beside the value of your taxable services now, whatever services that you provide to the client, okay, that's the information that you need to furnish in box number 10. Okay, if you have any services provided for free, I already covered. You need to have a value in box number 9. Okay, if there's any exemption, so I think that if you still remember that I already explained to you box number 18C just now. If there's any bad debt repayment, you need to declare to us. If there's any deduction of service tax, how to do that deduction through your SST02 return. If there's any issuance of credit note or debit note, how to capture that value in your SST02 return. Okay, so let's proceed with this credit note and debit note first. Okay, this is other transaction that affect your SST02 return. Okay, so okay, in section in service tax act we have this special or facility under service tax, which is section 23 on credit note and debit note. This is not your commercial credit note or debit note. It can also be your commercial credit or debit note. Okay, but this section 23 is a bit different. Okay, from your commercial credit note. Okay, I think that let me explain to you before you okay before you can consider this difference your commercial credit note and this credit note under section 23. Okay, so section 23 mentioned that where any taxable service is provided by any registered person which involve the issuance and receipt of credit note or debit notes under the prescribed circumstances. Okay, prescribed circumstances does not mention in here, but it's uh, prescribed in sub regulation 11 one of service tax regulation. Yeah, and condition such registered person shall make deduction or addition of service tax in his return accordingly, and the credit note and debit note shall contain the prescribed particulars. So this is section 23 under Service Tax Act. Okay. So the prescribed okay just now because in the act it just mentioned the prescribed circumstances. So the prescribed circumstances being prescribed in sub regulation 11.1 of service tax regulation. Okay, so what are the circumstances, the condition? Okay, sub regulation 11 sub 1, any registered person providing any taxable service shall issue a credit note or debit note where after the return, so the condition here after the return, that's why I purposely highlight with the blue highlighter there. After the return for the taxable service has been furnished to the DG, there is a reduction or addition to service tax amount which has been charged on the taxable service. Okay, meaning that now you already account the service tax to RMCD. Okay, after the return has been furnished. Okay, so meaning that when you already submit the service tax or you already account the service tax and pay the service tax to RMCD, there is a reduction or addition to the service tax amount. Okay, before you submit that return or before you pay that service tax to RMCD, Section 23 does not apply to you. Yes, you may issue credit note or debit note because you want to reduce the amount of your taxable service or service tax, but before that service tax, okay, when you issue the invoice, customers pay you, okay, you already submit to RMCD, okay, the service tax amount you already pay to RMCD, that full amount. Okay, but suddenly say for example customer did not happy and he requests for discount or whatsoever, so you will raise the credit note. Okay, under that circumstances, then only section 23 will come in. Okay, because you already pay the service tax to RMCD and now you need to issue the credit note and resulted in reduction to your service tax that being accounted to RMCD. Okay, so um, that's the facility under under Service Tax Act. Okay, why I call this as a facility because be, uh, when we introduce the section 23, okay, the manners or the method for you to get back whatever service tax that you already paid to RMCD earlier, is through the deduction through the service tax filing instead of request as a refund using this JKDM number to form. Okay, so that's why this section 23 as a facility. Okay, and usually this is just the situation why you issue this credit note or debit note. Okay, due to number one, maybe because of there's a change in the rate of service tax in force under section 10. We experienced this because previously this service tax subject to the rate at 6%, now we have 8%. So due to that change of this service tax rate, okay, that's why you need to issue this debit note or credit note. Okay, and also due to any adjustment in the cost of business. As I gave you an example just now, because your customer is not happy and he requested for discount, he requested for lower amount. Okay, due to any adjustment in the cost of business. Okay, whatever reason that requires you to issue this credit note and debit note, but that debit note and credit note must be um, as per under section 23, must be after you furnish the return to RMCD. Before that, section 23 does not apply, but you can still continue your issuance of commercial credit note or debit note. Okay. All right. This is the method. Okay, in subregulation 1112, what is the method for you to adjust in your SST 0 to return? Okay, how to, in which taxable period? Okay, so in this regulation it mentioned that where there is any reduction or addition to the service tax amount, okay, the person providing taxable service shall make the deduction or addition of service tax in the return for the taxable period in which the credit note or debit note is issued. So meaning that you can do the adjustment in the current taxable period. You don't have to call back your original taxable period that you already declared to us few years back. Okay, so that's why this section 23 is a facility. Okay, so you can just amend in the current taxable period. I mean that, not amend, adjust. Okay, let's look at, okay, if you issue debit note, okay, the amount of your taxable service in that debit note uh, to be captured in box number 10. Okay, if you have any debit note, okay, what you need to adjust in your SST 0 to return is through box number 10. Okay, and in box number 10, make sure that the value is the value of your taxable service. Okay, but if you issue credit note, it should be declared in 13A, but in 13A, only the value of service tax in credit note to be inserted in box number 13A, not the value of the taxable service in the credit note, but the value of service tax in the credit note. Okay, so it's different. If you issue debit note, it should be captured in box number 10, because box number 10 is also for debit note. But in box number 10, the value of your taxable service. Okay, the value of the taxable service. But if you issue credit note, the value of service tax in the credit note to be inserted in 13A. Alright. Okay, let's look at example here. This is really how section 23 should be applied. Okay. Scenario 1, CN issued in relation to service tax that has been accounted. According to this timeline, I'm simply using this timeline. Okay, February 2021 is where you provide your taxable service and you issue the invoice. So assuming that you are under payment basis. Okay, so you issue invoice, you provide taxable service in February, and customers only pays you in June 2021. Because you are under payment basis, you will report this service tax in the taxable period that cover months of June. It can be May and June or June July taxable period. It depends to your company. Okay. All right. So, under this situation, it's considered that return has been furnished to the DG. Okay, because you provide the taxable service, you receive the payment, and you already report the service tax to RMCD and you pay to RMCD. And suddenly, somewhere in November, okay, you issue credit note. Okay, remember that tax has been furnished to the DG. Okay, you already provide services, payment made by the client, and you already account that tax and pays to RMCD. So return has been furnished to the DG. And after that, somewhere in November, you issue credit note. So because you issue credit note in November 2021, okay, and this situation, okay, satisfy the condition under Section 23. So that's why you can fill in the value of service tax in that credit note in box 13A, in 13A in which taxable period? 13A in taxable period that cover months of November. Okay. In this example, I'm using November, December taxable period. It can be October, November taxable period also. Okay. It depends on your taxable period. Okay. So this is how Section 23 should be applied. Okay. So meaning that this credit note under Section 23 only applies, only applicable when you already submit or you already account and pay service tax to RMCD, and but you need to issue the credit note or debit note because you need to lower or increase the amount of your taxable service. Okay. So means that you already settle your liability to RMCD, but suddenly customer did not happy, customer contact you to lower the amount of your taxes, or you just realize that the amount that you invoice to the client earlier on is not right, so you need to raise the amount of your taxable service. So you will issue your debit note. So then you can means that then Section 23 will comes in. Okay. All right. Scenario 2, CN, I put inverted there because that is not really a CN under Section 23, but that can be your commercial CN. Okay. Or other documents issued before service tax become due. Okay. Same timeline here. February is where you provide the taxable service and you issue invoice to the client. Um, but you okay? You also still under the payment basis. Okay. But now before customer pays you, you issue credit note. Okay, because client did not happy and you issue credit note somewhere in May 2021. Okay. Only in June customers pay you. Okay. In this example, not to say that you can't issue the credit note. You can just issue your credit note, but that is your commercial credit note. But this is not a credit note under Section 23. Okay. Why this is not a credit note under Section 23? Remember that Section 23 only applicable when you already account the service tax to RMCD, because the condition mentioned that after the return has been furnished to the DG. Okay. In this example, you did not account any service tax to RMCD because customer did not pays you when you invoice. I mean that when you issue this credit note to the client. Okay, you issue the credit note to the client in May, and only in June you receive the payment from the client. Okay, so only in the taxable period that cover months of June you will report the service tax to RMCD. So even though you issue credit note, you should not have any value in 13A, but the value that to be considered in box number 10, your value, your final value of taxable service should be in box number 10, right? The value in box number 10 should be considered the CN amount. CN amount. Okay, so meaning that previously you issued invoice 10,000. Okay, um, and you did not receive the payment, and suddenly you issue the credit note with 1,000. Okay, so now the final value of your taxable service is after the credit note amount, right, is 9,000. So the 9,000 should be in box number 10. Okay, so that's what I meant as RP has to account service tax, take into consideration the CN amount in taxable period May and June 2021. So meaning that in box number 10, don't report to us invoice amount. Report to us invoice plus credit note amount. Okay. So in this example, I already mentioned that earlier you issue 10,000, but you have credit note 1,000. So now the final amount of your taxable service is 9,000. So the 9,000 should be in the box number 10. And you should not have any value in 13A. 13A only if you issue CN as per Section 23. Means that you already account that service tax to RMCD, then you issue the credit note. Then only you have 13A. But before you pay to RMCD, you don't have any, you can issue credit note, but you don't have any value in 13A, but you will I mean that you will calculate the amount in box number 10 after take into consideration the CN amount. Okay, I hope you clear on that. Okay, another example that also another not a CN under section 23, but you issue that document to reduce the amount of payment. Remember that another condition in this regulation 11 for this section 23, okay, where you need to issue a credit note with prescribed particulars. Okay, so if you issue that document with a prescribed particulars, then that document can be considered as a CN under section 23. Even though you okay, according to this timeline, okay, you provide taxable service and issue invoice 2020 in February, payment received in June, okay, then in May and June taxable period you account the service tax, okay, but you issue document somewhere in November, but that document is not a CN under section 23 because you use the document without prescribed particulars as being prescribed in regulation 11 just now. So that's why that document, we will not consider that document as a CN, but that is just a document to reduce the amount of your service tax. So under these circumstances, you again you can't fill in box number 13A, but you need to adjust or call back your original return. Okay, means that you need to call back your May and June taxable period and um, amend the amount in box number 10 to put the amount after consider this CN amount. Okay, so you can't adjust, or I mean that it does not affect your current taxable period. Okay, but you need to call back the original taxable period. Okay, and in that original taxable period, okay, it should be in box number 10. Again, not box number 13A. Okay, and it may involve refund procedure because our system, my SST system, because this CN usually resulted in tax decrease, right? So system will not allow any amendment resulted in tax decrease. Okay, that's why this procedure is a manual procedure. I'll explain to you in a short while. I also have this how you make amendment, um, manual amendment and also amendment through system. Okay, and because it resulted in tax decrease, obviously there's a refund procedure. Okay, and you need to request a refund through normal procedure, which is using JKDM number to form. Okay, so make sure that section 23 only applies when a return has been furnished to the DG. Before return furnished to the DG, shouldn't be any value in 13A, but you need to make sure that value in 10 already take into consideration the CN amount, or in this scenario 3, you can't amend, I mean that you can't adjust in current taxable period, but in the original taxable period. This is for the end debit note. Debit note usually you resulted in tax increase. Okay, same timeline, February 2021, issue invoice and provide taxable service. Payment received in June. Okay, so in June, you account and pay service tax or MCD. In November, you issue debit note. Okay, but payment for that debit note received somewhere in January 2022. So, in which taxable period you need to capture this DN transaction? Okay, even though you are under payment basis, but when you have DN, you need to make sure that the DN amount being captured in the taxable period that you issue the DN, because in the provision mentioned that reduction or addition to be made in the taxable period where you issue the credit note or debit note. Now, you issue debit note in November. So, in taxable period that cover months of November, December, where you need to put the amount of your taxable service in box number 10 in this November, December taxable period, not when you receive the payment for that DN. in that January 2021, 2022. Yeah. So the end, the same rules here in the taxable period where you issue the CN or DN. Now you issue DN in November 2021. So in taxable period that cover months of November, you need to insert, I mean that fill in this, take the amount in the end to your SST 02 return. Okay, finish with that CNDN. Okay, this is another exemption. I mean that this is another facilities under service tax regime, section 34, exemption by minister. So yeah, so for exemption, it also affect your SST 02 return. Okay, especially in box number 18C, as I already mentioned earlier on, and also another boxes is box number 13C in your SSC02 return. Okay, let's look at 18C first. Um, I think they already covered. If your client is a person entitled for any exemption, okay, I think that you're so familiar with this B2B exemption, right? You are the first person, your client is the second person, and the client to the your client is the third person in this example. Okay, so because your client, the second person, entitled for exemption, okay, you don't have to charge that client with any service tax. But in your SST02 form, especially in 18C, you need to declare to us the value of that taxable service tax being given exemption. Okay. So the value of your taxable service to be inserted in 18C. Okay. All right. So yeah, this is the value of your exempted taxable service. Okay. Yeah, so this is example of one of the boxes that is not marked as a mandatory, but if you have this transaction, this box will become mandatory. Okay, so if your client is a person who entitled for exemption, in your invoice, when we audit, we can see in your invoice there's no service tax. Why there's no service tax here? You will say that, oh, because your client is entitled for exemption. Okay, so whether you report this amount in your SST02 return. We would like to see that. Okay, we want to see that. So in ATC, if we can see that amount, then you are fine. If there's no amount in ATC, means that you are now being considered as furnished incorrect return. Okay, so make sure that if your client entitled for exemption, so in ATC there's also another, there's also a value it should be a value in this 18C box. Okay. So another exemption is through this service tax policy number 3 2020. This is for the transaction where you acquire digital service from the foreign registered person. Okay, here it's similar to B2B exemption just now. It's just that now it's involved foreign registered person. So foreign registered person, we also we do register foreign registered person if this person provide digital service to consumer in Malaysia. So if you in Malaysia, you acquire digital service from foreign registered person, but that service is actually for another client, you entitled to claim back whatever service tax paid to this foreign registered person, or in short we call this person FRP. Because FRP, whatever is, even though you are qualify for any exemption for this example, I mean that for this transaction, you are a person who entitled for this offsetting. Okay, um, FRP will just charge you. Okay, so that's why you are in Malaysia. We allow you to claim back whatever tax that you paid to FRP through your SST02 return. Okay, so that's why we call this transaction as claim refund by deduction or offsetting method. Okay. For example, here you acquire this digital service from FRP. The amount of service tax charged by the FRP is 6,000. Okay, in the invoice. Okay, and you already paid to this FRP. The service tax is also the value of the digital service. Okay, you paid that service tax to FRP in somewhere in February. So that's why you're allowed to do deduction or do the offsetting in the taxable period that cover months of February, because the condition under that service tax policy number 3 2020, that is the service tax policy that mentioned on this uh, facility. Okay, you need to pay to the FRP first, then only you can claim back to RMCD, okay, from RMCD. So where to put that amount of 6,000 in your SST return is in box number 13C, okay, not 13A. 13A is only for credit note, now in 13C. 13C is for the tax deduction. Because of for tax deduction, so the amount to be inserted in 13C is the amount of service tax paid to FRP just now, okay. So if we found that there's any value in 13C, we will request where is the invoice from the FRP. So you should maintain that document, should keep that record, because you do the tax deduction. So why you do this tax deduction? Because you have this, you're entitled for, and where is the evidence? So you can show to us the invoice from the FRP with that service tax amount. Usually when you receive this invoice from this FRP, in that invoice will mention the service tax amount, because FRP is a registered person. Okay, he will charge you with service tax and it will display in the invoice. Okay, and you need to pay to the FRP, and then because of the facility is that you acquire this digital service for another client, not for yourself. Okay, if for yourself, you're not entitled for this deduction. Okay, because you acquire that digital service for another client, we allow you to do tax deduction to claim back, because you need to charge your client with service tax. So that the service tax that been charged to you by the FRP, you can claim back through this 13C. Okay. All right. So another transaction under service tax that may affect your SST 02 return is on the bad debt. Okay. Bad debt under service tax. Okay, this is the definition of bad debt. Okay. Bad debt usually, this is another facility under service tax. Okay, but I don't have any intention to cover on this bad debt. Okay, claiming the refund in relation to bad debt, because this is I believe that this is already covered by Puan Eliza this morning. This is just a facility. Okay, remember that after 12 months period, if your client did not pay you, you need to pay to RMCD, right? But say for example that client declared as a bankrupt. Okay, so what happened to the service tax that already paid to RMCD? Okay, so that's why under service tax, this is a facility where if your client being declared as a bankrupt, okay, and there's no avenue that you can collect the service tax from your debtors, okay, we allow you to claim back from RFCD. Okay, so how to claim back? There's manners of claiming that refund. Okay, you need to use this CKDN number to form. Okay, but what I would like to cover here is on the repayment of the service tax in relation to bad debt. Okay, so the condition now is that um, uh, previously you provide taxable service to the client. Okay, client did not pay you, but because it's already exceed 12 months, you need to pay to RMCD. So you already pay the service tax amount to RMCD, but suddenly your client being declared as bankrupt and you can't recover the service tax from the debtors. Okay, so you will claim back the amount of service tax that you paid to RMCD just now. You can claim back from RMCD, okay, through JKDR number 2 form. Now, when you claim back, suddenly your client released from bankrupt, and he can pay you now whatever um, amount that outstanding. Okay, whatever the outstanding amount that he can now pay to you, so including the amount of service that you already claim back from RMCD. So under that circumstances, you need to. That's why the term being used here, repayment. You already pay just now. Okay, but you claim now because the client pays you now, you need to repay that service tax to RMCD. Okay, so that is the provision under section 36. Okay, so mention that where a refund of sales tax has been made under section 35, mean that you already claim back the refund. Okay, you already claim that back there as a refund. Okay, by the DG to the person in Section 35(1), and any payment in respect of the provision of taxable service for which the service tax is payable is subsequently received by the person. So meaning that your client is now can pay you. Okay. So the person shall repay to DG. The person means you. The person shall repay to the DG an amount calculated according to with the following formula. Okay. To help you with what is actually the amount that you need to repay to RFCD based on this formula. Okay. So this is an example. Okay. You can read the example. So that 566.04, okay, derived from the formula A over B times C just now, that is the amount that you need to repay to RMCD. Okay, basically, because he pays you the look at here. Okay. Because the client, okay, he owes you 10,000, okay, and he now pays you that 10,000. So the service tax based on that 10,000 is, according to that formula, okay, is 566.04. So that's the amount that you need to repay to RMCD. How to repay to RMCD? Regulation 20 of service tax regulation mentioned that, explain here that, let's look at 21A here, 20 sub 1 sub A. In the case of taxable person, by including the amount to be repaid to the DG in his return in the taxable period in which he received the payment. So meaning that, for example, you receive the payment somewhere in June, in taxable period that cover months of June, in that box number 10 is where you capture the amount of um, amount that related to this repayment of service tax in relation to back that. Okay, so mean that you need to put the 10,000 ringgit just now. According to this example here, 10,000 is the amount that you receive from the client. Okay, so the 10,000 to be also inserted in box number 10. Additional 10,000 to be in the box number 10 beside the value of your taxable service for that taxable period. Okay, then the tax will be calculated based on that box number 10. Remember. Okay, all right. Other than that repayment amount that affect your SST 0 to return if you have that transaction. So meaning that your client being declared as a bankrupt, okay, you claim back the refund from RMCD. RMCD already refund to you, and suddenly your client can pay back whatever amount that he owes you, and now you need to repay to RFCD. Okay, so in which box in your taxable period, in box number 10, and in which taxable period, in taxable period where you receive the payment. Okay, so another transaction that affect your SST 02 is the claim of refund by deduction of service tax. Okay, so in under section 39, so we have this special provision, also another facility, where if your client cancel or terminate, or whatever reason that may be approved by DG, terminate your taxable service or cancel your taxable service where you already commit to provide that taxable service, and your client, okay, in this under section 39, okay, the situation will be, your client engage you to provide taxable service. Okay, so you commit to provide that taxable service, and he already pays you, and you already remit that service tax, or you already pay that service tax to RMCD. But suddenly, customer cancel or terminate your taxable service. So what happened to the service tax that you already pays to RMCD? So that's why under this situation, we allow you to do tax deduction. Okay, how to do tax deduction? Is through your SST 0 to return, but before you do tax deduction, you need to apply to the DG through this application letter. Okay, you write into RMCD, says that you want to claim back the refund by deduction of service tax. Okay, because of whatever reason, because maybe because of your customer cancel your service. Okay, and submit together with your application letter is the SSC 0 to return where you declare that service tax amount. Okay, so and also whatever document that support your request. Okay. So once you get that approval, now you can do the deduction in your SST 02 return, in which box? Box number 13C. Okay. And in which taxable period? It, once you get the approval. Okay. Say for example, you get approval somewhere in May. So now you are filing for May and June taxable period. So you can put the amount of the in the 13C, in box number 13C, in that taxable period. Okay. So make sure that before you have any value in 13C, you need to get approval from RMCD. Before you get any approval, you should not have any value in 13C. Okay. So I would like to recap on the boxes in box number in your SST 02. Box number 10 is not only for your value of your taxable service, but it's also being used for if there's any debit note being issued by your company. So the value of the taxable service in the debit note also should be inserted, or should be also in reported in box number 10. And if there's any taxable service in relation to repayment of bad debt, also to be reported in box number 10. Okay. So box number 10 is for taxable service, taxable service in the debit note, and also taxable service in relation to bad debt just now. Repayment of the service tax in relation to bad debt. And also box number 13C, if you still remember that 13C is now being used for two purposes. One, if is for deduction under section 39 that I just explained to you, but you need to get an approval first before you have before you deduct through 13C. And another usage is for remember just now, if you acquire digital service from FRP, and you entitled to claim back the amount because the digital service acquired for another person. It's not for your company but for another person. So we allow you to claim back whatever amount that service tax amount that charged by the FRP. Okay. So meaning that for 13C, if there's any value in 13C, there must be a document. Okay. If it's because of 39, you need to have this approval. Means that if your customer cancel or terminate your service, you should have approval letter from RMCD. If it's not because of that section 39, it's because of the FRP just now, you need to have the invoice from the FRP. So if there's any value, if without this document, shouldn't have any value in 13C. Okay. All right. So this is just another exercise. Okay. I think that for the interest of time, I think that I can just share with you the answer for this exercise. Okay. Just take note of take down the write down the answer for this exercise, and if you have any question on this exercise, you can always email to me. Okay. Okay. For this one, Sizuba is a registered person, okay, and he recorded the following transaction. Issue invoice, transaction number one, very simple. Transaction number one, 1.8 million issue invoice, and this company also still under payment basis. So payment received for the provision of IT 100,000, and issue debit note with the taxable amount 200,000. Where to capture this amount? Okay, box number 6 is of course IT service. Box number 10, okay, 100,000 and 200,000. Okay, very straightforward, right? Very simple. 100 plus 200, because that box number 10 is also for the debit note, because you have this debit note. Okay, the debit note, taxable service in that debit note document to be reported in box number 10 as well. So that's why box number 11, you will get this 18,000, 6% from the 300,000, because this is old taxable period. So still subject to the old tax rate. Okay. This is the, if you fill in my SST 02 online. Okay. Another example, another exercise. Okay. Last fast Niam Berhad is a registered person. Okay. And he recorded the following transaction. Okay. Transaction number one is the same 1.8 million invoice. Okay. Still under payment basis. Okay. Payment received for IT services 100,000. Issue debit note 200,000. Credit note with taxable service amount related to invoice issued from May and June. Okay, so meaning that he already received a payment for this invoice. Okay, 30,000. Credit note related to service tax accounted in. I'm sorry that. For the four is related to invoice issued um, from May and June. Okay. Um, Transaction number 5, credit note related to service tax that accounted in February to March 2019 with service tax amount 5,000 ringgit. Okay, now he is filing for May and June 2019. Okay, he invoiced 1.8 million. Okay, and he also issue credit note. Okay, for the same invoice 30,000. So box number 10, what to be reported in box number 10? 100,000 plus 200 plus 30. This is from transaction number 2, number 3, and also number 4. Okay, because remember that when you have credit note before tax being accounted, okay, this is related to invoice issued May to June. So meaning that no payment received for that May and June. Okay, I mean that he did not reported any service tax for the invoice and payment that he received in May and June, because now he is filing for May and June. Okay, in the same taxable period he has this credit note. So that's why minus 30,000 in box number 10. So that's what I meant, that when you report in box number 10, if you have any credit note before tax has been furnished to DG, need to be considered in box number 10. So credit note usually to lower the tax amount, right? So that's why you minus the 30,000. So that's why you get 270,000. So box number 11 is 6% based on that box number 10. Since you have credit note being issued, I mean that credit note issued related to tax that already been accounted in Feb and March 2019, that's why you can have 13A in May and June taxable period. So the 5,000 from transaction number 5 in 13A. So 14 is the tax payable before penalty imposed. So 16,200 minus 5,000, where you get 11,200. Okay, I think there's extra zero there. You can just remove another zero from 11,200. Okay, all right. Okay, this is if you fill in the system. Okay, if you have any value in 13A and 13C, make sure that you click confirm, then only box number 14 will be affected. Okay, when you click confirm, previously you have 16,200. When you click confirm, then the final value will be 11,200. Okay, after the take into consideration the deduction amount in 13A and also 13C. If you have both, so system will deduct for both field. Okay, all right. So this is just another exercise. Another exercise. Okay, let's look at the answer here. Okay, so the final answer should be 1,600. Okay, so try to do this after my session. Okay, see if you can get this 1,600 amount as box number 14. Okay, if you get 1,600 in box 14, so means that all of the boxes are right. Okay, are correct. Okay, what happened if, remember that 13A and 13C is for tax deduction. Okay, what happened if tax to deduct is greater than tax to be paid to RMCD? Tax amount of tax to be paid to RMCD in this example is 21,000 in box number 11. Yeah, box number 11C. That is the amount that to be service tax amount to be paid to RMCD, but you also have the amount of tax deduction. The amount is 40,000. Okay, means that greater than amount of tax to be paid to RMCD. So system won't allow that. So that's why that field will be displayed as red. Okay, so means that you are not allowed to fill in the amount that is more than amount of tax to be paid to RMCD. So what to do with that remaining balance means that the maximum amount for this example, the maximum amount that you can fill in 13A plus 13C combined together is 21,000. Okay, it cannot be more than uh, service tax amount to be paid to RMCD. So what happened to the balance here? Okay, the balance. So that's why we have this section 34A. We introduced this section, new section under Service Tax Act, effective from January 2021. If you are allowed to do tax deduction because of three condition here, 34.3B means that the deduction because of the FRP just now, or you're allowed to do deduction under section 39 just now because the customer cancel or terminate, and also because of the credit note, okay, credit note under 13A just now, right? So you're allowed to do deduction through this 13A and 13C, right? But if there's any balance in for that amount, okay, DG shall that amount shall be refunded to you. Okay, but what is the method here? Okay, if there's any balance, is you can either request for a refund. Okay, because the just now, okay, you can't claim back, or I mean that you can't do the deduction, or you can't yeah, you can't do the deduction if that deduction amount is greater than tax to be paid. Okay, so the balance you can either request through you can request a refund through this JKDM number 2 form. Okay, it's a manual procedure, or if you want to have a cash. Okay, but if you don't want to proceed with that JKDM number 2 form, you can carry forward the amount to the next taxable period. So you carry forward the amount means that in the next taxable period you fill in the remaining balance. Okay, so it can be either you request through JKDN number 2 form if you want to have a cash, or if you don't want to have a cash, or you don't want to proceed with this manual procedure, you can request, I mean that you can carry forward the amount to the next taxable period. But make sure that you keep the record with you why you have deduction in many taxable period or in consecutive taxable periods. Yeah, because of you can't do that deduction in one taxable period. Okay, so but we allow you to do that, but please make sure that you maintain the record for the audit purpose. Okay. All right, still have 15 minutes to go. Okay, I need to finish all my slides here. Okay. All right. Don't worry. Okay. I hope that I can finish by 5. Okay. All right. So this is on the return amendment. Okay. Remember that if you, I mean that if you finish incorrect return, okay, as that's the provision, section 26(7). Any taxable person who furnish an incorrect return commits an offence and liable to a fine not exceeding 50,000 or to imprisonment not exceeding for a term not exceeding 3 years or both. Okay, and that's why make sure that if you realize that you previously you furnish incorrect return, make sure that you amend that return. And how to amend that return? Um, uh, as per mentioned in Regulation 15, you may correct the return as determined by DG, and DG already determined that if you want to amend your return that resulted in tax increase, you can do the correction or amendment through my SST system through supplementary return. But if resulted in tax decrease, you need to go under manual procedure. Okay, you need to do the correction using the SST 02 return manual form. So means that you need to download the form, okay, and submit the form to RMCD controlling station for verification, and keep the record for the audit purpose. Okay, you need to submit, and also uh, 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 you do a copy for your record for the audit purpose. Okay. Amendment resulted in tax increase, you need to do that amendment or correction through my SST system. You can use this supplement function in this SST02 system. Okay, supplement function as supplementary form. Okay, where you can declare another remaining balance. Okay, so that's why term being used here is supplement, just the remaining balance to be declared in this supplementary return. Okay, but this supplement buttons only appears if your return under paid status, means that you already account and pay your service tax in the main return or BOD issued. Okay, so let's look at what is the procedure. If you click supplement button here, okay, then system will display to you the same screen as when you furnish the main return just now. The I already showed you just now, right? The when you want to furnish your SST02 return, this is the main screen. So when you want to do the supplementary function, also you will get the same screen, but just note that on your top right, okay, under SST02 number form of a field, that's an indicator. Okay, that field will display your SST02 number, but with SUPP in bracket. So SUPP in bracket means now you are now doing the filing for supplementary. Okay, so make sure that on the top right it display in bracket SUPP. So means that you are now doing for your supplementary return. Okay, now once you just repeat the step as you furnish the main return just now. Okay, you need to fill in box number 23, 24, and so on. Once you finish with that, you click add. So system will direct you to the screen where you need to fill in the uh, uh, tax that you want to declare for which taxable service, and only for the remaining balance. Say for example, for this IT services, previously you already account or you already declared for 10,000, but actually you need to declare 15,000. Okay, previously you already declared for 10,000. Okay, so in this as supplementary return, you just declare for the remaining 5,000, not to declare the whole 15,000. Okay, so that's why this is the supplementary supplement. Only the remaining balance you need to declare. So in this example, you just declare for 5,000 instead of the 15,000. Okay, once you finish with that screen, step number 2, step number 3, the system will direct you get back to the main screen. Okay, then you will see your whatever amount that you just declared for the supplementary return. Okay, all right. How to, from your supplementary return, how to navigate to the main return? You look at the bottom right, okay, where you can see the wording supplement SST02 number. Okay, so in that on that information, it will display SST02 number within bracket main here, in bracket main. So in bracket main means that you can click this number and system will display to you the main SST02 number for that taxable period. Okay, from that main return, how to navigate to the supplementary return, it will also being displayed, oh sorry, it will also being displayed here, but in that number it will display in bracket SUPP, means that you can now navigate to the supplementary return. Okay, uh, okay, no, oh, okay, here on this screen. Okay, from this screen, you some of the user or registered person, they tend to get confused because you will get the same screen for main SST02 and also supplementary SST02. Okay, the same screen. So how to make sure that you are now viewing your main return? So just look at the top right here, information here. whenever you see in bracket main, means that now you are viewing main return. If you see SUPP here, display SUPP here, means that now you are viewing your supplementary return. And from the main return, you can navigate to the first supplementary. Okay, here, how to know that this is actually the link to the supplementary return? Whenever you see SST02 number with that end with other than 0, in this example, it end with 71, right? 1 in the number here 1 means that is your supplementary, the first supplementary. Okay, so if you want to navigate to the second supplementary, you need to first view your first supplementary, then you can navigate to the second supplementary. So that how it goes. You need to go step by step. You can't view your second supplementary from the main return. You need from the main return, you need to go to the first supplementary. Then from the first supplementary, you can go to the second supplementary. Yeah. So that how the system been designed. So anyway, uh, from the main screen, say for example, you have two supplementary, you want to declare for another supplementary. Okay, from the main return, as I mentioned just now, from the main return, you can't say for example, you have one supplementary now, you want to do another supplementary, the second supplementary. From the main return, you can't do that supplement. Okay, you need to navigate to the first supplementary. Then from that supplementary, you will see the supplement button. Okay, so from that first supplementary, you can click supplement button, then you can declare for another supplementary return. So supplementary return are allowed only up to only 9 times. Okay, you won't need more than 9 times. Trust me. Okay, all right. So uh okay. So each of your supplementary return will be assigned with this number. Okay, your main return will end with 0. Example here 70 or 80 or 90. Okay, whenever 0 means that is your main return. If you have one supplementary return, so you will see 71 here. Okay, if you have another supplementary, it shows you 72 means that you have two supplementary. If 73, you means that you have third supplementary return. That's how system do the coding for your supplementary return. Okay, so for manual correction, as I mentioned just now, if your amendment resulted in tax decrease, you can't do that through my SST system, but you need to go for manual procedure where you need to usually tax decrease because of you reduce the amount of taxable service in box number 10. Okay, because of the whatever reason just now. Okay, amendment to reduce amount of service tax in item 12, amendment involving tax deduction in item 13, item 13, 13A or 13C, any amendment involving tax deduction. Okay, so how to do this manual correction or manual amendment? You need to, and even though you want to correct your return that resulted in no tax liability. For example, you miss out to fill in box number 18C just now. 18C does not affect your tax amount, but it's just that information that you need to furnish to RMCD because you have this exemption. You have this transaction that been given exemption, you need to report to us. But if you miss out to fill in that information in that taxable period now, you need to make sure that you correct that information in box number 18C. So if still you need to do this manual correction, you download the form through my SST system, fill in that SST0 to return, but a little bit different from the supplement only fill in the balance, or I mean that whatever value that he missed out to fill in, that you missed out to fill in the original return. But for manual, you need to furnish the finalized. I mean that, for example, in your box number 10 should be 8,000. Previously, you fill in as 10,000. So that's 2,000 short, right? So in SST02 manual, the number, I mean that the amount that you should fill in box number 10 is that 8,000. The final amount or the correct amount, the final version of your SST02. Okay. So you fill in you need to fill in all of that field in the SST02 return. Okay, then you need to submit to RMCD controlling station for verification and also for audit purpose. Okay, so and also make sure that you have one copy in your company. All right, so this is just to share with you why you need to declare a quality return, okay, to make sure that you can avoid the penalty, to avoid cash flow crisis, save cost and time, and so because to make amendment resulted in tax decrease especially really cumbersome, can be cumbersome and really a very tedious procedure. Yeah. All right, so comes to the last session, last agenda for my session. This is submission on payment of service tax in relation to IMTS. IMTS, imported taxable service. Imported taxable service means you acquire services from someone from overseas, from foreign person from overseas. Okay, so starting from 1st January 2019, earlier when we introduced the service tax, this IMTS is not subject to service tax. Okay, but starting 1st January 2019, okay, we introduced this IMTS. So IMTS subject to service tax. Okay, so because it's subject to service tax, you need to account the service tax in relation to this IMTS. Okay, IMTS, no one's charged you with the service tax, but you need to self-declare. Okay, so when I mention imported taxable service means that only services that you acquire from overseas that is taxable in Malaysia. Okay, if that service from overseas is not a taxable service in Malaysia, so it is not subject to IMTS. Okay. All right. So taxable service, I believe that you have an idea now what is the taxable service under Service Tax Act. Okay. You can these are the taxable service. Okay. Under service tax regulation, where you can find group A, group B, group C, group D until group M now as a new taxable service. Okay, so if you acquire this taxable service from a foreign person will not charge you with any service tax, but you need to self-declare the service tax in your SST02 return or another return that I will explain to you in a short while. Okay, because it can be different in terms of who actually acquired this IMTS. Okay, so this is just an example of to test whether you acquire imported taxable service or not. Okay, um, uh, this is the advertising services. Advertising services is a taxable service in Malaysia under Group I. Okay, if you acquire these advertising services first from overseas provider, so it falls as IMTS. And for advertising services, there's an exclusion. If that advertising is for a promotion outside Malaysia, if provided by local person, is not subject to service tax. And if also acquired from overseas person, also will not subject to IMTS. Okay, if there's an exclusion, so exclusion also applies for IMTS. Okay, for advertising services, if you acquire that advertising services for a promotion outside Malaysia, okay, if you acquire it from registered person in Malaysia, he will not charge you with service tax. And if you acquire it from IMTS, he will not charge you with service tax, but you also don't have to account any service tax on IMTS because it does not fall under IMTS because being given, not to say being given, being excluded if that advertising services related to promotion outside Malaysia. If that advertising services related to promotion in Malaysia, subject to service tax, acquire from registered person, he will charge you. Acquire from for foreign person, you need to self-declare. Okay, subject to service tax. Where in the act mentioned that um, you need to account for that service tax in relation to IMTS. Okay, for registered person, it under section 26. For person who is not a registered person but he is in business. So let's look at at Section 26A here, it's clearly mentioned that any person other than a taxable person who, in carrying on his business, so it's clearly mentioned that in carrying on his business means that you are in business and you acquire imported taxable service. So the Section 26A says that shall account for the service tax due in a declaration as may be prescribed. Okay, so that's the provision that requires you as a businesses in Malaysia, even though you are not a registered person, you are just businesses in Malaysia and you acquire MTS, you need to declare the service tax in relation to this MTS. But for these businesses who are not a registered person, you will declare in the SST 02A form. For registered person, you will declare in SST 02 form. Not registered person, you will declare this IMTS in SST 02A form. Okay. Yeah, so only registered person in SST 02. Other than registered person, SST 02A. But in the Act, you can't find anywhere in the Act says or mention that or requires individual who are not in business to account this IMTS. Only businesses need to account this IMTS. Businesses who is registered person or businesses who are not registered person. Individual, for individual consumption, not required to account for IMTS. Okay, so for IMTS also there's another rules for the value. Okay, there's also a regulation. I mean that there's also rules for regulate the value for IMTS. Similar to the taxable service just now, if you still remember under Section 9, this also comes under Section 9. Okay, if you provide taxable service to a person connected or not connected, right? Okay, so for MTS also we have this exactly the same or similar rules. Okay, if you acquire this IMTS from a person connected or person not connected. Okay, let's look at example here. Okay, so Miss Neighborhood is a company in Malaysia. He require IMTS from these two companies, not me and also Why Me. I both are consultation services. Okay, but Why Me Neighborhood and Why Me Inc. is a connected person. So Why Miss Neighborhood, when he acquire IMTS from not Miss Neighborhood, he need to account service tax for this MTS. What is the amount of service tax that he need to report to RMCD? Because the value of IMTS from the not me is 10,000. So 800, 8% from the 10,000 is 800. So 800 is the amount of service tax on IMTS to be accounted by Why Me Stamberhard when he acquire IMTS from not me. And now he also acquire consultation services from Why Me Inc. outside Malaysia, and they are connected person. Okay, because they are connected person, maybe Why Me Inc. only charged with 8,000 ringgit, but Why Miss Neighborhood, okay, he need to account service tax based on 10,000 because the rules under section under regulation 4A is clearly mentioned here. Okay, where the imported let's look at regulation 4AB here. Actually the same provision, yeah, where the imported taxable service are acquired by a person in Malaysia who is connected with the person who is outside Malaysia, the value of imported taxable service which would have been acquired in the ordinary course of business by the person who is not connected with the person who is outside Malaysia. Yeah. So if he acquired IMTS from a person not connected, okay, ordinary cost of business, this not me charge 10,000. So the service tax based on that 10,000. But because at the same time Why Me also acquire from Why Me as Why Me Inc., which is who is connected, so that's why the value of IMTS shall be the value that he acquire from I mean that acquire in the ordinary course of business from the person who is not connected with this company. So that's why he still need to account IMTS even though Why Me Inc. Invoice with 8,000, but for the purpose of service tax, he will this Why Me Sdn Bhd will account service tax based on 10,000 instead of 8,000. Okay, so this is the tax due for IMTS, this YME Sdn Berhad, when he need to report this IMTS to RMCD. So for IMTS, it's either it's different from the normal tax due just now. For IMTS, it's the earliest of invoice is received of the payment is made, which event come first. From this example, okay, he acquired IMTS February and he received invoice in June and he made a payment to overseas person in August. But because invoice is received first, so he need to account service tax on IMTS in the taxable period that covers months of June instead of August. Okay, because invoice received come first before payment is made. Okay, so because in the Acts it's mentioned that tax due for IMTS at the time when the payment is made or invoice is received for the service, whichever is the earlier. Okay, alright. So this is how registered person account for IMTS in their SST 02 form. Okay. If you don't have any IMTS in your taxable service, okay, you need to click for new service type. Okay. Then you will look for perkhidmatan bercukai diimport. Okay. Then you add that new taxable service in the row. Okay. So now when you you choose for that perkhidmatan bercukai diimport, then it will be that taxable service will be added into your profile. So now you can see the perkhidmatan bercukai diimport from the taxable service option. Now you can select for that perkhidmatan bercukai diimport or imported taxable service for you to account the service tax related to that transaction. Okay. Once you select for that perkhidmatan bercukai diimport, system will display you this screen where you can fill in the value of IMTS. Okay. In box number 10, and the rest will be auto calculated by the system. Okay. Because now that IMTS can be subject to 6% and also subject to 8%. So if you have both for the same taxable period, because we have this transitional period, okay, so some of the IMTS still subject to 6 and some of the IMTS subject to 8%. So you need to declare one by one. First, you declare for 6% first. You settle for 6% first. Then you repeat the step. Click again the perkhidmatan bercukai diimport and declare for the 8%. Okay. So once you settle with that, okay, you click confirm. Now you can see in your profile the declaration for IMTS for both 6% and 8%. Okay, that's how you do for declaration for service tax for IMTS in your SST 02 form for registered person. It's on the same SST 02 return. Okay, and based on the tax due for that IMTS. Okay, if you have, for example, you acquire more than one IMTS for that month. For example, you acquire IT services, you acquire consultation services, you acquire advertising services, different IMTS. But for the purpose of declare that transaction to RMCD, you just lump in one line. Okay, you don't have to have multiple line of perkhidmatan bercukai diimport or IMTS in your profile. You can just have max two rows because of the tax rate is different, not because of the category of the IMTS. Okay. So for a non-registered person, so person other than registered person, you need to declare in SST 02A form. Okay. For you to declare using this SST 02A form, you need to first register as a system user first, not to declare as a registered person, declare as a system user for you to declare this IMTS. Okay. Once you register, you will able to access this screen. For non-registered person, you will have monthly taxable period for the purpose of this IMTS filing. Okay, but don't worry, if you don't have any MTS transaction for that taxable period, you just ignore that taxable period. You don't have to click and file for new return. You don't have to. Okay. Say for example for year 2023, you only have one transaction of MTS in May 2023. Okay. So you just file for IMTS for taxable period May 2023. For other taxable period, you just left it as blank. Okay, you don't have to worry on the rest of that taxable period. Just declare for the taxable period where you have this IMTS transaction. Okay, so once you select for that taxable period on this screen, then for non-registered person, you don't have any option. You just have one taxable service to declare here, okay, which is imported taxable service or perkhidmatan bercukai di import. No others declaration. Okay, select for that perkhidmatan bercukai di import, then you will system will display you the screen, and you only fill the value of imported services. Only one box to be filled. The rest will be auto populated by the system. And remember the same step here. If you have ITS subject to 6% and subject to 8%, you settle one by one. 8% first or 6% first. Then you do the another tax rate. Yeah, so finish with that. Click confirm, then system will display you to the screen, and that's where in your profile will have declaration for both 6% and 8%. Okay. Yeah, with that's like brings me to the end of my presentation. Okay, so I believe that, okay, I'm so sorry that I exceed 15 minutes, taking your 15 minutes times. Okay. With that, end my presentation here. Thank you so much to the participant. I pass back the floor to MC. If you have any question, I will just post to the chat box, and I will respond through by offline. Yeah, I will respond that through email. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our time together. We would like to thank you all for joining us and to our excellent presenter for their time and expertise. We would, we would love to hear your feedback on this webinar, and you can scan the QR code that we will put on the screen. Attendance report, certificate, and receipt will be emailed directly to a participant in a week of a time. Thank you all again for being here and enjoy the rest of your day. See you again tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.